Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Sorry for going MIA for 2 weeks. I don't know what happened. I don't even have an excuse for you. I've just been kind of crafting and reading. So I thought I would do this video to kind of give you an update on some of the things I've been making and some of the books I've been reading. Like, literally, that's what this video is going to be. If you want to hear me yap about books and crafts, you're in the right place. If you don't want to hear that, get out of here. Oh, I painted my nails too. This is the only magnetic nail polish I own. It's called Forbidden Fruit by Mooncat. I really like it. It's really nice. I look very red on the camera. Oh well. I think maybe I subconsciously decided to shoot this video today because I think my outfit's cute. Like, look at this little shirt. And then my pants are, like, moons and... I like to think my outfit is giving, like, 90s witch. Like, it's very Gillian Owens. I only really have one crafty thing to tell you about, but I wanted to tell you about it because I'm very proud of myself. Okay, let's say I started crocheting, like, last September-ish. I don't know that there's actually, like, a date, but I started doing that. And it's funny because my eldest sister, I don't even know that we had talked about me crocheting at that point. And she bought me for Christmas a kit to, like, make your own plush witch. So it ended up working out perfectly. But I, like, looked at the instructions and I was really daunted by her because she looked really hard. And so, you know, I'm crocheting, I'm making my little birds, I'm making the cauldron coasters, making all these things. And then the Woobles, which is, like, a beginner crochet kit, that's actually where I started, came out with this cat with a witch hat and a little cape and a little broom for Halloween this year, and I sent the link to my sister and I said, oh my god, should I buy this? And she said, I think you're a little bit past the beginner kit at this point. And I had never really thought of that. I was like, oh my god, am I past the beginner kit? I don't know. Should I try to make the witch? And so I did it. And I made the witch. Look at her. So I think this is actually supposed to be a nose. Like, it's supposed to be just like a little flesh tone blip there. But I think I like it better as like a little mouth. So this is my witch. I named her Stella. Yes, she was a kit. But I think she's cute. It wasn't even particularly difficult. There's just a lot of steps and a lot of things I've never done before. It's a kit that came with, like, all the yarn you're going to need, but I definitely ran out of the orange for the hair, so if you look really closely, the orange is different on this side versus this side, because this side is orange that I just happen to have. But other than that, I mean, I'm quite proud of her. I named her Stella, and I think I'm going to sit her on the gecko tank. I'm going to maybe get her, like, a little stand and put her up there. I don't know. I haven't fully decided yet, but she's staying here. She's going to live with me forever. I'm very proud of her. It took me about, like, a week, but keep in mind that I have a full-time job, so I would, like, go to work and then come home and work on her, and then go to work and then come home and work on her. So, it wasn't that bad. I don't know, I quite like it. I still want to take, like, a sewing needle and actual thread and, like, put this, like, ribbon part, like, sew it down a little bit better, because it tries to shift all the time, and then you can see where I attached it with the yarn, and that bothers me. But yeah, this is what I've crocheted. My friend and I have a Christmas market coming up in a couple weeks, and I have not made a single thing for the market. I have made this witch, and I have made my friend, well, okay, I'm not done it, but I've begun making my friend her Christmas present, and that's it. That's what I've made. So hopefully she's made a whole bunch of stuff for the Christmas market, because I'll have nothing. And now we're going to talk about books. Okay, so I had been planning on reading Slewfoot by Brom for Halloween. I bought it in, like, the summer, the physical book, and I had been really wanting to read it for Halloween. But then I started getting more and more excited to read it, and I just read it in September because I couldn't wait any longer. I bought the ebook, even though I have the physical copy of the book, and I really, really, really loved it. If you are interested at all in, like, the vibe of this book, it's giving that Robert Eggers movie, The Witch. Like, it's very sort of puritanical, 1600s, sort of settlement. The settlement in this book is called Sutton, and they're in like Connecticut, New England, that area. And our main character, Abatha, she's a girl who was from England, and she was sold to her husband here, and she's very, like, sort of loud and outspoken and sort of mouthy and that sort of thing. And the interesting thing is that you think about a man buying a woman and you're just like, oh, but Edward is actually a decent guy. Like, you actually quite like him when he's in the book and you're reading about him. And anytime that he, like, wants Abatha to not be so loud or whatever, it's not because he doesn't want her to be loud. He actually really likes her input, really likes talking to her and that sort of thing. It is simply because other people have the right to, like, put her in the stocks, and he just doesn't want her to get in trouble, right? Like, it's not even, he's not even being like, Agatha, shut up. He's like, please, they're gonna put you in the stocks, like, he's a good guy. And the premise of the book is that, spoiler, Edward dies. I think it says it on the back of the book. And Agatha's brother-in-law wants her farm, because he used it as collateral with, like, these crops that he was doing that was stupid, and he lost. So he wants to be able to use that farm to pay it. And Agatha finds, like, a loophole, and she's able to keep the farm, but as long as she can finish paying it off, they had, like, one payment left, so she has to work the farm for the summer to make the payment. And basically her brother-in-law is a piece of shit, and he tries to do everything he can to sabotage her. But Agatha kind of becomes friends with this, like, forest god spirit. We don't know what he is. He doesn't know what he is, named Samson, and he helps her, and it becomes a whole thing. And then the last 100 pages of the book are wild. I gave this book, I think, 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads because I found Samson's storyline quite boring. Because it's like Agatha's out here dealing with, like, real things, dealing with, like, misogyny and having to learn how to run a farm by herself, and, you know, with the patriarchy and all these things that she's not allowed to do, but she's trying to do by herself, and, you know, she's doing all of these, it's just, her story is so interesting, and then it'll cut to Samson, and he's like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm like, get out of here, and he's like that for pretty much the entire book, so that's why it would have got 5 stars from me otherwise, but that book I really enjoyed reading it. It was one of the first times that I've, like, gone to bed every night and looked forward to, like, reading my book to find out what happens next. And it really stuck with me. And so I was chasing that sort of vibe again from another book. So I read 2 books in, I'll say October, even though I just finished the other one the other day. And where's my Kobo? It's on my feet here somewhere. Here it is. By the way, this thing that I bought July, best thing ever. Like, I hate reading physical books now. I have 2 that I'm going to talk to you about after that I bought because they weren't available on the Kobo, and I want to read them. But I'm not looking forward to it because I wish they were available on here. So, the first of the books that I read in October was called The Long Shadows of October. And I read this book because I watched a YouTube video where she was recommending spooky things. And this book basically follows a couple of teenage boys, if you will, as they get hired to look after this house for a couple of weeks while the lady who owns the house is away. But what they don't know is that this lady's daughter is a succubus, and she basically lives in the walls, and she's looking for teenage boys to, like, eat, but also she's gonna, like, have them worship her and that sort of thing. So, that one was okay. A lot of the replies on Goodreads kind of talk about it being like, what word can I use that YouTube won't flag? Very, very R-rated is what I'll say. I didn't find it to be that bad. Like, I read all of the ACOTAR books, and those were definitely more R-rated than this one. My only qualm with this book is some of the decisions the writer makes, especially towards the end. Like, some of the things that he has some of the main characters do, especially the main female character, not the succubus and another one. Like, there were just... bleh. I didn't love it. Okay. So then after that, I read this book. I have to let Lena out of my room. Please hold. So then after I read that, I read this book by Michael McDowell called Cold Moon Over Babylon. This book first came out in 1980, and I was really excited to read this one because Michael McDowell worked on the screenplays for both Beetlejuice and The Nightmare Before Christmas, so I was really excited to read it. And I'm going to be honest with you again, I didn't love this one either. Now, I definitely liked this one more than I liked The Long Shadows of October, but I think maybe some of my problems with this book were just that I wanted that sort of, like, the vibe that Slewfoot was giving me, and this didn't give me that, and so I might be a little bit biased. But it's also just a very different style than I'm used to, because there's no real main character in this one. So if I'm going to describe this book to you, it would be, you know, the synopsis on the back of the book reads like a 14-year-old girl gets murdered, and then she kind of comes back as like a ghost to hunt the guy that murders her. But yet, as someone who has not read the book, the 14-year-old girl isn't really the main character, and for the first half of the book, neither is the guy that murdered her. And it's just kind of... I don't know, I felt like I never really got the chance to connect with any of the characters. I felt very separated from them, because we didn't spend very long with any of them. The longest one that we spent time with was the bad guy who literally has no redeeming qualities. If you're interested in Cold Moon over Babylon for the same reasons that I was, because of Michael McDowell being, having been involved in so many movies that we love, I'm probably going to read another book by him eventually anyway, because it was still really well written. I still enjoyed the story. It just wasn't what I wanted. But there is a movie version of the book, and it only came out in 2016. And it's not like an Academy Award-winning incredible film, but it is pretty much exactly the book. I'm pretty sure. I actually can't think of anything that was changed right off the top of my head. It's pretty much exactly the book if you want to see it. So you can do that. It was a good book. It was well written, and I quite enjoyed it. It just wasn't what I wanted at the time. And this is why I have not rated it on Goodreads. It's because I don't know what to do. So the 2 books that I bought physical copies of that I want to read. So this one is called Grimstone. And I didn't realize when I bought this that this is a series, but I probably will just read this one. Let me read you the back of the book. Remy Hayes is beginning to think she's cursed. Her fiancé cheated on her, her brother Jude is a major pain in her ass, and the moldering mansion she inherited from her uncle might just be haunted. Flipping Blackleaf Manor already feels impossible, even before Remy is blackmailed by Dane Covett, the dangerously hot doctor next door and Grimstone's most eligible bachelor, if you can ignore the fact that everyone in town thinks he murdered his wife. Remy doesn't want to believe it, especially after Dane sews up a gash in her thigh and steals a kiss in payment. A kiss that makes it hard to walk for reasons that have nothing to do with an injured leg. But as the renovation takes a strange and violent turn, Remy must decide if Dane is the one haunting her nights or if he's trying to protect her from something much worse. I also like that it's got the colored edges. I don't know. This one will be easier to read because it's not as big. It's not a big, heavy book, and I'm, lazy. If you're new here, I'm so sorry. I didn't explain that. I have a bone disorder called osteogenesis imperfecta, and it basically means that I'm weak. And I think that has a lot to do with why I have shied away from reading in the past, because I literally just don't like to hold a physical book. It's too heavy. It's too awkward. That's why buying my Kobo has changed my life, because it's so light. It lights up by itself. It's so small. It's so much easier. So this, I joke that it's me being lazy, but I also do think it's part of my disability. So how many pages does this book have? 306, so it's not particularly long, so we'll be good with that. And then the other book that I bought, the one that I really want to read, is unfortunately a heifer, but this one is The Forest Where the Phoenix Sleeps. And this is by Brooke Marley Jones, and she's actually local to me. She lives in Niagara, and I'm pretty sure you can get this book everywhere, in the States. I think I found it on the Barnes & Noble website. You can get it at Chapters/Indigo in Canada, but you can't freaking get it on the Kobo app, but you can get it on the Kindle app. Let me read you the back of this book. Walking home late one night, burned-out barista Nell accidentally incinerates someone. Whoopsies. Now, if this tale began in a fantastic faraway land or Nell were perhaps a wizard, such a mishap might make some kind of sense. But this is not a wondrous fantasy world. This is real life, and Nell just wanted to go home and eat macaroni. As Nell stares upon the smoldering corpse, she realizes something with horrifying certainty. She's magic. Not the cute, pulling a rabbit from a hat kind of magic. Unfortunately, during Nell's little outburst, she suffers a mortal injury. Fortunately, Dara, I don't know how to pronounce his name, D-A-R-R-A-G-H, Dara, a rugged and magical outcast, witnessed the entire incident. To save Nell's life, Dara whisks her away to a world where magic reigns. However, as is so often the case with magic, it comes at a price. In this harsh world, the entities that lurk in the darkest corners of Nell's nightmares await her in hungry anticipation. As Nell and Dara vanquish monsters and ghouls, their affections for one another take root. Just when this treacherous tale is beginning to look like a love story, Dara is captured by a wretched, cadaverous queen. Now it's up to Nell to save him. So you can see why I want to read it. Now that being said, there's still a gajillion books I want to read on my Kobo, and the incredible thing about Kobo is that they do this daily deal thing where books go on sale for $1 each. And actually, one of my books from my wish list was on there, and it's called Cackle by Rachel Harrison. And I won't read you the whole bio, but it seems like this girl becomes friends with a witch, and I don't know, it seemed like fun. But I'm trying to figure out what book to read next. I'm leaning between the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, because I do also have that one in physical form, and I never read it, so I feel like I should probably read it. But then there's also The Kiss Curse, which is the X-Hex book, and Legends and Lattes is another one that I really want to read, that I haven't read yet. I don't know. And Practical Magic, the actual, that the movie is based on, was one of the daily deals one day, so I bought it as well. And I typically don't think I want to read books that I've seen the movie for, you know what I mean? But I feel like I have to make an exception for my favorite movie of all time, right? And it's a whole series, so I should read the book and then read all the other ones in the series as well. Now we're gonna spend a quick second here to talk about audiobooks because I did listen to all 5 of the A Court of books. It's interesting because I listened to just the straight up audiobooks ones. I didn't listen to the ones that are like cinematic, and I keep thinking like if I ever decide that I miss Prithian and I want to go back, I could just listen to those sort of, what do they call them? Like the detailed audios, the graphic audios, whatever that is. Like I could go and do that. But there's so many other things I want to listen to first. But that could be fun, you know? And then I decided I wanted to listen to The Hobbit because I've never read it before. Fun little aside story. So when I was in elementary school, in grade 7, my class got these like brand new shiny copies of the graphic novel for The Hobbit, okay? And these copies were literally kept in plastic and they weren't allowed to read the classroom. And every morning we were given half an hour of silent reading time to read the graphic novel for The Hobbit. But the problem is, you gotta remember, this is like the late 90s, early 2000s, right? I guess this would just be the early 2000s at this point. The elementary school that I went to was the only one in the area that was wheelchair accessible. And it was not close to my house. So the school district allowed like me to be like special by myself bused all the way out to the school. So as a result of that, I was 15 to 20 minutes late to school every day. So then by the time I get into school, I get my stuff off and I get into the classroom. Everyone else got half an hour with these graphic novels, and I only ever got 5 to 10 minutes a day, so I never finished it. I think I got to Gollum's Cave, and that was as far as I got. So I'd obviously seen the 3 movies a gajillion times, and I know that people have very strong feelings about the movies, but I'd never read it. So I've now listened to the audiobook narrated by Andy Serkis, and I have some feelings, and you might not like all of them, but here's the thing. I kind of went into this not realizing that The Hobbit is, in fact, geared towards that age group that I was in when I first got the graphic novel. Like, it is definitely younger. Anyway, as I was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted by my camera dying, I definitely enjoyed The Hobbit, don't get me wrong, but I think I would love it more if I had had that nostalgia pull of having read it at the right age that the book is written for. Does that make sense? Because things happen very quickly in the book. There's lots of adventure, and there's not a ton in the way of character development. It's interesting because some of the comments I had previously seen on the internet that people were complaining about the movies is that it was just kind of generally about making one book into 3 movies, but I cannot imagine trying to fit all the different events of The Hobbit into one movie. Like, imagine them going from, you know, Bilbo being brought onto the mission, and then the trolls, and then the goblins, and then, you know, even just getting to the mountain, and then, you know, Lake Town before that, and then the Smaug, and then the battle. Like, how do you do all of that in one movie? I just think that's narrow-minded. But something that the movies, because there's 3 of them, they have so much time, they did allow for a sort of additional character development. Like, one of my favorite parts of the Hobbit movies, and one of the reasons I go back to them, is Thorin Oakenshield. Getting to see him being a really good dude who doesn't like Bilbo, and then him really warming up to Bilbo, and then his sort of descent into madness, and then him coming back at the end. Like, it's really fun to watch, and he never dislikes Bilbo in the book, but you get hints of his descent into madness, and you know about it, but it feels less impactful, at least it did for me, than it does in the movies, because we didn't get to see so much of what a stand-up guy he was beforehand. You know what I mean? There are definitely elements in the movies I don't like. Don't get me wrong. The shoehorning in of Legolas, the creation of Tauriel, none of that was necessary. Get that out of here. I appreciate that by making Azog into a bigger deal and having it be the orcs come to the battle and not the goblins. They were trying to, like, sort of tie The Hobbit in with the Lord of the Rings movies a little more. I understand that, but I disagree with it. I think it should have been the goblins. Like, Azog is not even really in the book. He's mentioned, like, once, and he doesn't matter. Like, I think you could have just kept it with the goblins. The interesting thing is that Gandalf goes off by himself in the book, and we actually get to follow him while he's doing that in the movies, whereas the book doesn't follow him doing that at all. And another element that I really do like in the movies is that sometimes Bilbo's bravery isn't because he has the ring, whereas a lot of the times that he sort of is brave in the book, it's because he has the ring. It's because he's invisible and the things can't see him. Whereas in the movie, like, he's the one that yaps at the trolls, and then they turn to stone. that it's Gandalf that does that in the book. He yaps at them in like a troll voice, and they think it's each other talking, right? He saves Thorin in the movie, and that doesn't happen in the book. So there's definitely positive elements to both. I think if Hell Ever Froze Over and I had a child, I would definitely introduce them to the book, maybe not the movies. But I still quite enjoyed the book. It was not particularly long. I wanted to mention it to you that I have finally listened to it. I plan on listening to the actual Lord of the Rings books at some point as well. Once we finish the thing I'm going to tell you next. And, Tolkien, I've never been able to read the Lord of the Rings books because I'm just not intelligent enough. He spends too long describing nature, and I love nature. Like, look at me, I've got 800 houseplants, but I just cannot listen to him wax on about hills for days and days and days on end. I feel like I can absorb better and enjoy it more in audiobook form rather than reading. So that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to it. But he's one of the most famous writers that's ever lived for a reason. He's got this incredible poetic way about his writing, and it's beautiful. And I'm saying this to set up to you that the audiobook series that I have been listening to since I finished The Hobbit is one of the worst written things on earth. On earth. It is horrible. And if you don't have the nostalgia pull to this series that I'm about to tell you to, do not start it. Okay? Because without the nostalgia pull, I would be actively bullying this series on the internet. Okay? But I did read these books of my own volition in my youth. And therefore, they get me in my heart of hearts, okay? And I'm talking about the House of Night series. These books started coming out in 2007, which is when I was in grade 7, and there are 12 books, and I think they stopped coming out in 2012 or something like that. They were coming out like 2 a year for a while there. I think I read all the way up. I read farther than I thought I did. I think I read all the way up to like the 8th book or something, and then there was just too much, and I just stopped. But I've been listening to the audiobooks, and the nostalgia is great. Like, I remember so much of it. I'm surprised by the parts of it that I don't remember. It's interesting to read it, to listen to it, and think about how many little things from this book have worked their way into just my everyday vernacular, and I never kind of thought about it. Like, whenever I'm sick, I always joke that my body is rejecting the change, and it is from that series. And there's just, like, little thing. Our senior citizen dog, who was 15, her name is Zoe. My sister and I sneakily named her after the main character in the House of Night series, okay? As an adult now, I understand that there are some problematic things in the series and some problematic things with the author, not in a J.K. Rowling kind of way, just in like a, I don't know. The way she defends her writing is what I'm going to say, because there are, like, slurs and stuff in the book, and she'll be like, oh, that's just how kids talked in the early 2000s, and maybe I was very sheltered, because I was. But, like, I don't remember people just throwing around the F slur. Like, I just don't remember that. Or the R word. I don't remember that either. But they're not often. There's, like, maybe one or two a book, but they are in there, and she, like, I've heard, I was looking at, like, Reddit threads, and she, like, she'll get right in there and like, defend herself. And I'm just like, but you could have written the same sentence and just not use that. You know what I mean? But even slurs aside, the writing is terrible. There was a line in the book the other day when I was listening to it at work, and I had to pause it. Like, it took me right out because it was awful. There's a dog, and the dog's name is Duchess, and it was Duchess. When I entered the room, Duchess came at me wagging doggily. Wagging doggily. What does that mean? Could you imagine writing that and getting it through an editor and publishing? Wagging doggily. Like, it is embarrassing. I didn't go to university for English, okay? But I have, in my adult life, been constantly surrounded by English majors, okay? My eldest sister, my editor at the paper, and my current manager all graduated university with their degrees in English, okay? So I feel like I have absorbed some of it just, like, from being around it, and I'm just, like, shook. Like, I didn't know if I could continue after wagging doggily. And there's this other thing that happens all the time. So there's this, like, core group of, like, 5 kids, and if they all agree with our main character Zoe on something, instead of just writing, they all agreed, PC Cast, the author, she'll be like, yep, Damien said. Sounds good, Shawnee said. All right, Aaron said. And it just, like, she goes through each character individually agreeing, and it drives me insane. Like, it makes me want to punch myself for continuing this and being on, like, book 7 at this point. So, like, I just really want to get this across, that these books are terribly written. There's a gay character, and he's in the friend group, and it does that very early 2000s thing where they're like, he's gay, but we don't care. But then they're talking every other line about how he's gay, and they seldom give him any other sort of personality traits or character traits. It gets a little bit better as they go. There's more of a focus on how smart he is, but still, it's a very early 2000s vibe in that sense, but it doesn't absolve it. But it's just, ugh. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to see this as a glowing recommendation. And as I've been reading them on Goodreads, I have not been rating them because I should be rating them like 2 stars or 1 star. But I loved them so much when I was younger, and I can't help but love them now. And actually, most of the audiobooks are available from my local library, so that's what I've been doing. I've been taking it out from the library on the app. I actually, like, physically went to the library, got a library card, downloaded the apps, like, with them there, so that I could listen to the series from the library. Listen, I'm really enjoying it. I think, like I said, I think I'm on book 6 or book 7 at this point, and I can see a bunch of the books on the shelf in my closet, so I know I got pretty far. I got farther than I am now, so I feel like I have to finish it. They're just so bad. So bad. But there's 12, and then I think she, like, continued the series a couple of years ago with, like, a sort of upside down-esque universe, right? I'm not going to read those. We're going to get through the 12 original books, and then that's it. And then I can move on to, like, listening to Lord of the Rings and have, like, this truly, like, incredible writing style, truly poetic way of being. I also really want to listen to Fourth Wing because I just think I would like it. And I really enjoy listening to those fantasy style books. Like, when I'm not sure if I would read the word and know how to pronounce it immediately, I love listening to it. And all of this is ultimately in preparation for March when the next Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the Reaping, comes out. I feel like I should pre-order it on my Kobo so that I just have it that day because I want to read it that way. And, like, I'm just so excited. Hey Mitch's Games. If you do not know, the Hunger Games, Hey Mitch's Games, were the second quarter quell, the 50th games. There were twice as many tributes, and he won. And he won in the end by utilizing the barrier. Like, you remember when in Catching Fire, when Peeta accidentally slashes the barrier with his, like, machete and it bounces back and he, like, basically dies for a second? That's basically how Haymitch wins his games, is by utilizing the barrier. And the Capitol sees that as cheating. So, spoiler alert, at the end, as sort of retaliation for cheating, they kill his whole family. Like, that's why Haymitch is the way he is. Because he won the games, but then they took everything away from him anyway. I cannot wait to read those. And I kind of wish I hadn't seen, what is it, Songbirds and Snakes? The Snow movie, because I would love to read that as well. But the movie was really good. I really enjoyed it. And you know what I love about the movie? And I'm assuming the book as well. They never try to make Snow a sympathetic villain. Like, he's just kind of a douchebag from the beginning, and it just continues that way. And you see him become more and more power hungry, and you see all of these opportunities where he had the chance to do the right thing, and he specifically chooses to do the thing that serves himself better. And I'm just like, yes, thank you. Can we stop trying to make villains the good guy? That is my number one problem with the Cruella movie, because you know me, I love Cruella, but I love her evil. And the Cruella movie didn't answer the question as to how she became the kind of person who's going to acquire, and, you know, some of those by stealing, 99 Dalmatian puppies, and skin them and make coats. We never get that answer in the movie. Instead, the movie gives us the story of this fashion girl who sort of weirdly has an affinity for dogs. Like, she just kind of likes them, and that's it. That's all we get. It even, at the end of the movie, she gives Pongo to Roger and Perdita to Anita, which sort of insinuates that she planned the Dalmatians' coats all along, but she loved Dalmatians because she had the ones that she still... So I really think her giving those dogs away was just supposed to be like a fun Easter egg, but it makes me overthink it. And I wish I could have loved the Cruella movie, but I can't, because they didn't, like should have just made her a bad guy. Like, make her a fashion girl who loves it, but make her a fashion girl who's, like, willing to hurt other people to get to the top because she's a villain. And I know it's a Disney movie, but they could have shown us that, like, this is the wrong thing to do, right? And that's what I really loved, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I think that's what it's called. Because Snow is a jerk, and he doesn't get the girl in the end because he's a bad guy. And even, you know, he starts the movie poor, and he doesn't have a lot, and then his sister Hunter Schafer kind of like sort of warns him against becoming a bad guy, and then the movie ends. Towards the end of the movie, she says something about him looking just like his father, who was a douchebag. I am literally just rambling, but it was so good. They did such a good job, and I'm really hoping that Sunrise on the Reaping, I'm assuming that they're like already probably planning a movie, if we're being so real. Like, there's no way they're not, but I can't wait. I can't wait for the book. I'll read the book, I'll see the movie, it's fine. I'm here for it, and especially now that I've got my Kobo and I'm in my reading era, I guess. That's literally what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read the shit out of it. It's interesting, if you don't count audiobooks, I've still read like 8 books this year, right? And that's more books than I've read in the past 10 years completely, right? Like, I don't think I've read a full book cover to cover since maybe my first year of college, which was the most recent time I read Carrie. And now it's at like 8, and then if you add audiobooks, it's like twice that, because I did all 5 ACOTAR books. And that number can't be accurate, because I've done all 5 ACOTAR books, and I'm on the 6th or 7th House of Night book, and I did The Hobbit. But regardless, like, so many, and I really love my Kobo. Listen, this is my one complaint, though. It's not even about the Kobo, it's about the case. Can you tell that the corner is broken there? Nothing even happened. I didn't even drop it. I picked it up from my desk one day to, like, use it, and I opened the front, and the corner, like, flew off. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know why it would do that. But it is what it is. Anyway, now that I've literally just rambled at you for like 25 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to ask you what you're reading, and if you have any recommendations for me on what I should read next. Now that I don't feel obligated to read something scary because it's not October anymore, the world is my oyster. I will read anything, but it does have to have, like, a witchiness or a spookiness about it, or like a fantasy element, because I'm just really not into, I don't know, things that aren't fun like that. You know what I mean? I was watching this YouTube video the other day, and this guy was like, I just don't know why people read fiction. You know, if I'm reading a book, I'm only reading a memoir. And I was like, congratulations on not having fun. Sorry. And if you're not reading, but you're working on crafty stuff, I want to know what crafty stuff you're working on in the comment section below as well, because I am always interested in new crafts. I've been getting a lot of Instagram ads lately about making things with air dry clay, and that sounds like fun. I could get behind that. Maybe we should make things with clay. I don't know. But maybe one hobby at a time for now. And anyway, thanks again for watching. I love you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!